1. Israel. What if you could defend a country without wasting missiles on threats that don't even matter? That's exactly where Israel's Iron Dome does. It is designed for short-range rockets, mortars, and sudden attacks. And here's the genius. Iron Dome doesn't intercept everything. The system starts with the EL/M-2084, scanning up to 43 miles. The moment a rocket is detected, the battle management system calculates its trajectory in seconds. If it's heading toward empty land, it's ignored. If it's targeting a city, that's when the Tamir interceptor launches. These Tamir missiles are fast, precise, and relatively cheap, using radar plus infrared guidance to destroy threats mid-air. This selective interception is what makes Iron Dome unique. Developed by Rafael Advanced Defense Systems, with support from Israel Aerospace Industries, it's built for constant readiness, as Israel has always been a country under constant nuclear threat. But what happens when the threat isn't just small rockets, but nuclear-capable missiles flying across continents? 2. United States. This is where the United States plays a completely different game. It doesn't trust one system. It builds an entire ecosystem. Everything connects through the ballistic missile defense system. The moment a missile launches, satellites like SBIRS detect it within seconds. The trick? Heat signature. When a rocket fires, it produces massive heat that stands out against the cold vacuum of space, making it impossible to hide. From there, radars like AN/TPY2 take over, tracking the missile through its entire journey. For homeland defense, ground-based mid-course defense stations interceptors in Alaska and California. These don't explode. They smash directly into incoming missiles in space. At sea, Aegis systems track threats using SPY-1 radars and fire SM-3 or SM-6 interceptors. Then comes THAAD, hitting targets high in the atmosphere, while Patriot, PAC-3, handles anything that slips through. And if everything fails, the Phalanx CIWS, a rapid-fire cannon that acts as the final shield. This entire network is backed by global tracking systems like the sea-based X-band radar. But what if instead of layering defenses, you built one system so powerful it could control the entire sky? 3. Russia. That's exactly how Russia approaches defense. Not layering, but dominating massive areas with reach. At the center is the S-400 Triumph. This is a multi-role weapon that can take down fighter jets, cruise missiles, and even ballistic threats. What makes it powerful is flexibility. The S-400 fires different types of interceptors depending on the target. Short-range, long-range, even ultra-long-range missiles reaching up to 248 miles. Its radar systems, like the 91N6E and 92N6E, can track dozens of targets at once while guiding multiple interceptors simultaneously. But Russia doesn't stop at one layer. Systems like the S-300 and Panzer S-1 work alongside it, forming overlapping rings of defense. But what happens when threats move faster than sound, or even leave the atmosphere? That's where the S-500 Prometei comes in. Designed to intercept hypersonic weapons and targets in near space, it pushes defense beyond traditional limits. Built by Almaz-Antey, Russia's strategy is simple. Control huge zones using fewer but extremely powerful systems. But what if a country wanted similar power, but built entirely on its own? 4. China. That's where China takes a different route, building everything in-house and creating a defensive wall instead of a global shield. At the center is the HQ-9. Early on, China studied Russia's S-300 and then evolved it into its own system. The result? A long-range interceptor launched from mobile trucks, capable of hitting targets up to around 77 miles away. It uses the HT-233 radar with track via missile guidance, meaning the missile itself helps guide the system, making it harder to jam. But one system alone isn't enough for modern warfare, right? Exactly. So China builds layers. The HQ-22 acts as a more affordable backup with an extended range. Imported S-400 systems add even more reach. And for high-altitude threats, the HQ-19 steps in with hit-to-kill interception, capable of targeting ballistic and even hypersonic threats. All of this is connected through fiber optic networks, advanced AESA radars, and electronic warfare systems like the FT-2000 that can even target enemy radars directly. The philosophy is clear. Instead of a few powerful systems, China builds hundreds of interconnected units, creating a dense, nearly impenetrable defensive web. And if China built its shield internally, India chose a very different strategy. 5. India. India's system is a hybrid, combining imports like the S-400 with homegrown systems such as the Akash missile system and the two-layer ballistic shield of Prithvi air defense and advanced air defense. But why build two separate interceptors for ballistic missiles? Because India intercepts threats twice, once in space, and again if anything slips through. The PAD system targets incoming missiles at high altitudes, roughly 25 to 50 miles, while AAD acts as the final shield closer to Earth, at around 9 to 19 miles. This two-tier approach dramatically increases interception probability. For aerial threats like jets and cruise missiles, Akash steps in. It uses a ramjet-powered missile guided by radar, capable of engaging targets at around 15.5 to 18.6 miles. All of this is tied together by advanced radars and battle management systems developed by the Defense Research and Development Organization, with early vision shaped by APJ Abdul Kalam. But what if your biggest threat isn't far away, but just across the border, ready to fire hundreds of missiles at once? 6. South Korea. That's exactly the situation South Korea faces, and its entire defense is built for speed, not distance. Unlike global systems, South Korea's shield is designed for surviving a sudden, high-volume missile barrage from the north. At the top layer sits THAAD, capable of intercepting ballistic missiles outside the atmosphere using hit-to-kill technology. But what if something slips past THAAD? That's where the Patriot PAC-3 missile system comes in. Together, they form a tight, layered defense optimized for quick reaction. South Korea is also building its own systems like the L-SAM and the broader Korea air and missile defense, integrating radars, satellites, and even Aegis-equipped ships. This entire network is coordinated by the Republic of Korea Air Force with support from the Agency for Defense Development. But what happens when a country faces constant missile threats across vast deserts, with critical oil infrastructure on the line? 7. Saudi Arabia. Desert Missile Shield. That is why Saudi Arabia was built for survival across emptiness. Here, the challenge isn't just missiles, it's geography. Vast deserts, scattered cities, and a few ultra-critical targets like oil facilities. That's why Saudi Arabia relies heavily on imported systems like the Patriot missile system and THAAD. The system relies on powerful radars like the AN/MPQ-65 and AN/TPY-2, all feeding into a centralized command network. Operated by the Royal Saudi Air Defense Forces and supported by companies like Raytheon and Lockheed Martin, this system is constantly active in real-world conditions today. Saudi Arabia faces frequent missile and drone threats, especially from groups like the Houthis, so these defenses aren't just sitting idle. They're used regularly. But what if your entire country is small, dense, and constantly under threat from one single direction? 8. Taiwan. China-focused patriots. That's Taiwan's reality, and it changes everything about how defense works. Unlike Saudi Arabia's wide-open desert, Taiwan is compact and packed with critical infrastructure. So instead of spreading out, it builds a dense layered shield focused almost entirely on one threat: the mainland. At its core is the advanced Patriot PAC-3 interceptors. But what happens when missiles arrive in large numbers all at once? You build a system that can handle saturation attacks. Taiwan uses both PAC-2 with blast fragmentation and PAC-3 with hit-to-kill interceptors, guided by advanced radars like the AN/MPQ-65, capable of tracking and engaging multiple threats simultaneously. But Taiwan doesn't rely only on imports. Indigenous systems like the Sky Sword 2 and Tiankung 3 add extra layers of protection. All of this is coordinated by the Republic of China Air Force, creating a tightly packed defense network around cities like Taipei and major air bases. But what happens when a country is actively at war and its defense systems are being tested every single day? 9. Ukraine. Taiwan prepares for war, but Ukraine is living it every single day. Ukraine's defense is a survival machine, built from whatever works, wherever it works. A mix of Soviet-era systems like the S-300 and Buk missile system, combined with Western systems like the Patriot missile system. So, how do you defend when missiles keep coming, wave after wave? You don't stay still. You adapt constantly. Ukraine keeps its defenses mobile, frequently relocating systems to avoid detection and strikes. The S-300 handles long-range threats, about 93 to 124 miles, while the Patriot missile system adds precision against cruise and ballistic missiles. But what if you could win without firing? Electronic warfare and decoys. By jamming signals and deploying fake targets, Ukraine forces missiles to miss, conserving interceptors, while the Ukrainian Air Force keeps evolving under pressure. But what happens when multiple countries combine their defenses into one giant shield? 10. NATO, Europe. That's NATO's approach, not one country, but many acting as one. At its core, this system links radars, fighter jets, warships, and missile batteries into one massive defense-in-depth network. Sensors like the AN/T, PY2, and Aegis ship radars detect threats, from drones to ballistic missiles, hundreds of miles away, feeding data into command hubs like NATO's Combined Air Operations Centers. But how does NATO actually stop incoming missiles? Through a 3-layer interception system. At the top, systems like THAAD and Aegis ships with SM-3 missiles intercept threats in space or at extreme altitudes. In the middle, the Patriot missile system and SAMP/T handle aircraft and missiles at medium ranges. And finally, short-range systems like NASA, MS, and IRIS-T protect cities at close distances. All of this is tied together by advanced command systems under NATO leadership, guided by figures like Christopher G. Cavoli, with tech built by companies like Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and MBDA. So, which one would you trust to protect your city? Drop your pick below. If you're not secretly building a missile system in your backyard, hit subscribe. Choose your next watch, our video on every AI agent explained very easily, or the one YouTube thinks you'll love. See you in the next one.